Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for inviting me to tell you over the story of how the Army of Hashem really began from the onset. In 1979, the summer was over. Camp Gan Israel Parksville brought the buses to 770. We davened mincha with the campers with the Rebbe. And then right after, while everybody was going home, I get tapped on my shoulder. Rabbi Chodakov wants to see you. Rabbi Chodakov did have a secretary. I go running to the office. I leave my luggage out on Eastern Parkway. And me and my friend from camp, we walk into the office and he says, sit down. And he starts telling us about an elaborate way of children doing mitzvahs and growing from one rank to another rank. It's a brilliant idea. And then the Rebbe says, I want you two boys to make a magazine, a summer magazine to all the campers. And every month, there should be another mitzvah that they should grow from one rank to another rank during the winter. And the reason why we were picked, because in the previous 2 years, we made camp magazines that went out during the winter to all the campers. So he figured, ask us. My chavrusa said to Rabbi Chodakov, my job is to sit and learn Torah, not to make so many magazines. And he's right. But it seems like Rabbi Chodakov really wanted this to happen, we feel. Well, he said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And he picked up and he walked out. I look at Rabbi Chodakov and I says, I love the idea. I see the brilliance in it. But I need him. So he says, I understand. He says, go have hatzlach in your learning this year. Fine. Move forward a couple of years, and all of a sudden the Rebbe came out with a contest. The Heshiv Leiv Avos Albonim. It says in the end of Tanakh, of Malachi, it says that it will be a generation before Mashiach comes that the children will inspire the adults. Come on, let's do mitzvahs, let's do Yiddishkeit. We're in that generation where the parents, a lot of them out there not doing Yiddishkeit, and maybe we can get the kids to start doing mitzvahs through a contest. So we all around the world created a matzah ball contest, and everybody was being inspired. The children were doing contests. They were going home and says, Ma, the next thing is we have to eat the maror, the bitter herbs. And they would check off after the holiday that they did whatever they did, and they would send in their report to us. It was a huge success. All around the world, tens of thousands of children did this contest. Then on Chol Hamoed Sukkot, the Rebbe gathered all the children in 770 and made a rally. Inside there were teachers, some madrichim. I was standing outside in front of 770, listening on loudspeakers what the Rebbe was saying to the children. And the Rebbe was speaking about the greatness of being part of an army of Hashem, going up ranks. I'm saying, whoa, I know where the Rebbe is going with this. I heard this. Whoa, what Rabbi Chodakov was saying to us wasn't his idea for campers. Sounds like something that the Rebbe wanted. Right after the Sikh, I called up my friend who was on Shlichus. I said, did you hear what the Rebbe said? We could have done this for the Rebbe. He says, I know. But my job as a bach, I have to sit and learn. I can't give up so much time from learning. He says, you shouldn't either. I said, I agree with you. Now, he grew up to be a dayan. He learned a lot. But I knew what the Rebbe wanted. I started walking over to a couple of my shluchim buddies. I was in California at the time, on Shlichus. And I said, this is what the Rebbe wants. He said, wow, it sounds wild. But do you really think that's what the Rebbe wants? I said, I do know. Then came Simchas Torah. I'm standing in my place. The Rebbe is dancing. And it was going, and it was literally as Simchas Torah is. And I was high up in the bleachers. And the Rebbe looked straight up at me, and his eyes pierced right into me. And I felt a shake in me, goosebumps. And I realized the Rebbe is asking me, this is your project. And he turned around again, and again he put his eyes on me. And I whispered during the singing, I will do it. And the Rebbe went with the hand. Let me tell you something. When you all of a sudden, in the middle of HaKafis, feel that Rebbe is looking at you and counting on you, you got to make this happen. I immediately, when Yom Tov was over, I immediately started working on this, writing things down, and on the airplane ride back, I was speaking to one of my fellow shluchim. His name is Levi Folgerman, who's in a Chabad house in Natick. And I said, I think we should do this. I want to put together for Hanukkah 8 mitzvahs that we do, and we'll make a booklet, and we'll send it out to all the kids. And he said, what kids? We'll get to the Reform temples. We'll just get it out there. So he says, how do you know this is what the Rebbe wants? So flying on the plane was the Rosh Hashiva. So we walked over to him, said, Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Shochat. Is this what the Rebbe wants? He said, 100%. So I said, I'm going to be working on this. He says, in Seder or out of Seder? I said, I'll be in Seder, don't worry about it. And I started writing it up. All of a sudden we needed to make drawings and comics. Who was going to put it together to make this whole, because my idea was we're going to make a 20-page book filled with pictures of comics. And as you can see behind me, that was a comic in the olden days. His name was Beetle Bailey. We called him Beryl. And there was a sergeant and there was soldiers. And we made this whole book filled with 8 mitzvahs to be given done on Hanukkah. One of them was for Shabbos candles, so we drew like a girl's soldier. And we had 2 other people working on it. One was Rabbi Gitlin, who's in Toronto. He did the drawing. And then Rabbi Avraham Weg, who did the layout of everything. And we wrote to the Rebbe that we were going to do on yellow paper, and we're going to print 2 colors. Now, we were going to hand it to the Rebbe. It took about 5 weeks for this to put together, but we had it ready. On a Friday, we had it ready. That Shabbos in New York, Shabbos Mavarch in Kislev, the Rebbe asked, how come I spoke about a while back about Tzivos Hashem? How come there's no 12 psukim out there? How come nothing was made? Children, go knocking on the doors. Ask your leaders to get you part of an Army of Hashem program. In New York was Rabbi Kunin. He heard this. Right after Shabbos, he calls up and he asks, my office says, is this ready for print? Is this ready to go? I said, yes. He says, the Rebbe wants to see it tomorrow. Get it to me tomorrow. In other words, we had these big boards of cartoons and writings and everything. We had to make a Xerox copy of it and get it to New York. But there's one problem. Fax machines weren't created in 1981. It wasn't in 1980. It wasn't there yet. So what happened is that there was a machine called a Quip machine. It takes your paper and very slowly it Xeroxes it, sends it into a big wire, across the country to another machine, and then it takes about 45 minutes per sheet. Rabbi Kunin said, I have one in my office. Rabbi Krinsky has one in his office. Go into my office and start getting across the United States to us so I can have it when the Rebbe comes to 770 at 10 o'clock. We come to his office, his door is locked. And he had a real thick door on his office. We woke him up in the middle of the night in the New York time, and he goes like this, take an axe, smash the door. We got to get it in. The Rebbe needs it. We got an axe. We smashed the door. And what happened is that all night we just pushed it and pushed it through. We finished about 10 to 7 California time, which was 10 to 10 New York time. And Rabbi Kunin took all the sheets of the paper, and he stood by the door and put in an envelope, and he wrote something into it that this is from California, and he gave it to the Rebbe. He says, this is what California is ready to do for Tzivos Hashem. Within a couple of hours, we got an answer. We're sitting in Beis Medrash learning. All of a sudden says, the Rebbe gave an answer. The Rebbe gave an answer to our publication. And the Rebbe's answer was as follows. I received this with great joy and happiness. This came very timely, especially next to the Torah portion of the Yaakov Holach L'Darkoi, which is also this week. Yaakov Holach L'Darkoi. Yaakov goes on his way, and then he goes and he writes on the letter that we wrote in that it was going to be multicolored, the Rebbe underlined twice the word multicolored, which we took it as the Rebbe wants to have it as 4-color job. And then the Rebbe added the following. The Rebbe added that make sure that this is an army that is both for boys and girls. So on the front page we said, this is Tzivos Hashem for all Jewish boys and girls. And on the back page, we had this picture on the back page, we want you to join the army of Hashem. And right over here, in this area, we put 3 boys looking up and 4 girls on the other side looking up, like we want to join the army of Hashem. And we decided we were going to print maybe 1,000 of these booklets, but the Rebbe gave $18, a $10 bill, a $5 bill, a $2 bill, and a $1 bill to help pay for the printing, which Rabbi Kunin has in his office. And Rabbi Kunin says, if the Rebbe is giving so much money, I want to print 5,000. So we printed up 5,000 booklets, 2,000 of these posters. We also printed up 12 psukim booklets. And all of a sudden, we went all over the state of California. So many Reform temples, so many conservative temples, so many yeshivas. Everywhere we went, people saw this. It was a contest. And I was sitting back in the office, answering calls from the principals, getting new schools to put us in. And then after the school, after Hanukkah, thousands of answers were coming in, which each answer means they were signing up for Tzivos Hashem. In that one contest, we got over 2,000 kids to join the army of Hashem. We started making all over the streets. We were closing down streets and making big rallies in San Francisco, in Diego, and in Los Angeles. We made these big things. Within the first 6 months, we had 4,500 children signed up on the West Coast, in the state of California, in the army of Hashem. But this is the very first. This is before New York came out with anything, with any magazine. The first magazine that ever came out in New York was in the month of, I think it was the month of Tavis. It's a yellow magazine, which it has a picture of Avas Yisrael. You know, that's what the whole thing of the army of Hashem is, to do mitzvahs. But the first mitzvah that they wanted to talk about was Avas Yisrael. But we made these very colorful posters, and we put it everywhere. In fact, these, you can from time to time see them on eBay, people selling them, and they're going for a few $100s. This one I laminated, I put it onto a piece of wood so I should have it forever. But I'll bring it closer to you so you can see it. But this is the very, very first thing. So when he was in the comic, he went straight down. He would have tzitzis on the side. All the people would have tzitzis. And he would tell you, we want you to light Menorah. We want you to light Shabbos candles. And he went through 8 beautiful mitzvahs. And that, my dear friend, is the very, very first of anything that ever came out of Tzivos Hashem anywhere in the world. Go sign up a few kids. Bring them close to Yiddishkeit. Give the Rebbe nachas. It is the Tzivos Hashem that Rebbe said that will take us and dance us and march us front of the line when Mashiach comes. Thank you for inviting me. Today's a beautiful Yom Tov, so good Yom Tov to you all. And God bless you. And let's bring the Rebbe nachas. Thank you.